So this showed up on my doorstep about a month ago, and, well, I opened it because I didn't really know what was inside it. But it looks like we've got a couple of new watches from San Martin, I think. Now, this one's waited so long because, well, quite frankly, they didn't tell me that they were sending them. And as such, they had to go to the back of the queue, right? That's how it works. But yeah, let's see what they sent over, see if these new releases are anything hot. Now, I have been kind of keeping up with San Martin's newer releases just because of the newsletter, basically. You know, I have to check the new releases every fortnight just so I can make the newsletter. If you want to sign up, by the way, you can in the link in the video description. Basically, I just give you updates about all the latest affordable watches. So I'm assuming these are going to be a couple of those. Let's take a quick look and I'll run you through the basics. Ah, yes, I did see that one online. Ah, okay. So I can tell you straight out of the box, the one on the right is definitely the more interesting and promising of the two, but we'll get to that one in a moment. First of all, we'll start with this faux vintage thing. And I'll get the plastic off real quick. So this kind of has vintage Submariner vibes about it, but in a slightly peculiar way. I did previously tell San Martin, you know, I'm only interested in the more original designs, and I'm assuming that's why they've kind of sent me these two, because they certainly are more towards that original side of things still. Because while it's got some Rolexy bits going on, got the handset there that's very similar. The case especially is really similar. You can see it's got that same sort of flat profile there. Case looks like it could be being reused from some of their Submariner homage watches. But aside from that, there are some elements that are quite different. The dial and the bezel being the obvious ones. And the dial here's got that faux aged look about it with some faux patina. But also they've gone a step further with that. The lume is, well, it's basically a sandwich dial there. So the markers are all inset in the dial, which I always thought looks pretty good really, especially when done well. And this at least seems to be done neatly. Two-tone bezel's also quite interesting. Oh, it's a GMT bezel, of course. 24-click bezel there. Not perfectly aligned, unfortunately. What model is this exactly? And then couple of bugbears I've definitely noticed with this one. Here we go, I've found it. So this NH34 powered GMT is also called the SNO134G, and it's got a sapphire crystal according to this listing. Stainless steel case. The cases are typically the best part of San Martin watches. And in some ways this is no exception. It is kind of a plain design this overall, but you know, it's finished and brushed very well. And it's got that advertised big 200 meter diver inspired water resistance rating. Strap as well is actually alright too. It's like a suede strap, really is quite thick and silky smooth on both sides as well. Not often you see that. But yeah, the strap actually feels pretty good, and I guess it does go with the styling. You're getting a very magnolia coloured watch all in all here, and that does lead to some legibility concerns here. Now, I've always thought that in general, when people moan on YouTube about legibility, normally it's not quite as important as they're making out. In most cases, the watches are legible enough, but I have to say, as you can see quite obviously here, this is definitely a borderline case because those hands seem to be coloured or something. Oh no, they are, I think, silver? But they almost don't look it. I'm having to get really close there. They've got that faux patina lume, which partly makes them blend in. I don't know, maybe those hands are a fractionally different colour and not the typical silver, especially if you compare them there with the case, which is the normal silver colour. It does seem to be a bit of a difference to me. And also the crystal, as with some other San Martin watches, also isn't the clearest. This one's like a funny shaped one, almost like a boxed / domed crystal, because it's clearly coming up at the edges, and then it also has a slight dome on the top too. But yeah, not the best anti-reflective coating, combined with a very matte and single tone design. It's always going to be a bit trickier to read. Don't hate it overall, but certainly wouldn't say I love this on first impression. At least the whole package is pretty slim really for a GMT, but this other one should also be pretty slim, and I think it looks better in the process, at least from my first impressions of it here. I already know what this one is. Oh, and in terms of price, that one is just under £250, by the way, at the time of recording, but that's without any discount codes or anything. If I've got any of those, I'll also lob them in the video description because AliExpress does tend to spam me with them. So I try and keep them in the relevant video descriptions for you. This one is just the new GMT version of the SNO144. And this purple looks fabulous, I have to say. I remember covering this one a few weeks ago. Well, by now it's probably a few months ago in the newsletter. It's still a pretty new model, and it's essentially just a reworked version of their previous SNO144, which is one of San Martin's most popular watches, and actually one of the best-selling watches on the whole of AliExpress from the looks of it. And they made some slight modifications with this GMT, which, I think it looks actually probably better than the original. So here's a quick look at it, and wow, I think this looks fantastic. They made some minor changes to this. They've most obviously changed the crystal. This new model is a GMT. Oh, let's realign the date wheel there. There we go. But yeah, they've changed those two things, and they've also added that 24-hour chaptering in there, which all in all, when all those things are combined, I think it makes quite a big difference, really. It does look substantially different in some ways, and this might just be one of the best purple dial watches I've seen from a design perspective. It's got that Jan dial texture. I don't know how to pronounce it, but essentially it's a type of low temperature enamel dial, they're calling it here, with a bunch of porcelain-like texture to it. So I'll get really close up for you. I've got macro footage of the original in that review video on Ben's Watch Club if you want a much closer look, because the overall effect is very similar, but this watch definitely looks better in purple than it did in that blue, which I looked at. Really vivid dial, very, very clean markers and hands on this one too. And there's a look at this domed crystal. I take it this still is surely sapphire. Now this watch is considerably more expensive than the original. It's at least 100 quid more. Yeah, here you're looking at a price of about £400 all in. So it's certainly not a cheap watch, but it has got a Miyota 9075 inside. So again, it is very, very thin. Got a very good bracelet, which does have the occasional tendency to just have a stiff link or two, which I think we've just got one there. As you can see, it doesn't quite open up as far. Won't be a problem for my skinny arm, but still not perfect. But it does have a very good adjustment system, as you can see down here. It's San Martin's widely used glide lock-like system there, so effective, can be used on the fly without tools, and you get adjustments without the need for micro adjustment holes, which is good. And yes, that crystal is indeed sapphire, and without a doubt, this boxed sapphire that they're using here is far, far more legible than the flat sapphire that San Martin uses, and it's not even close. As you can see here, way less glare. Doesn't reduce the saturation or anything. You still get a really good punch. It is a corker of a looking watch. It's actually quite a bit better looking than the original, I'd say. Still elite level case finishing for the money. They've always been very good with that. Let's whack both of these on anyway, see what they look like. Oh, and the exact code name for this, by the way, I think on the main screen it's called SNO144, but in the description they've called it SNO144BGX, whatever that stands for. But it is the first one on wrist, and I'm sure I watched an occasional YouTube video or two about this one, or saw them recommended in the feed, and people seem to really be hyping this one up. It's okay, but I mean, out of the two I've got here, I don't think it's really close. I know this one is more affordable, but I think San Martin has got better watches at this price. It is good to see them experimenting with stuff like the sandwich dial, though, gaining a bit more of a skill set, gives us more options in the future, I suppose. Yeah, just not really for me, this one. I'll do my measurements and crystal check in a moment, but I mean, this thing looks really good, actually, and for some reason it doesn't look quite as big as the original, even though I think it is. They've got the dial diameter here at 35 to 39 millimeters, and then don't have a case diameter measurement. They only have the lug to lug listed here. We'll give that a proper test in a second. It is a fraction thicker than the original because it's got that really raised crystal. But anyway, this has to definitely immediately go into contention for one of the top releases of the year so far. I mean, this looks awesome. Picked the perfect tone, at least with this particular model, so they were right to send it to me. Can't promise that all of them will look this good, but they do have quite the colour selection, I've got to say. I'll leave a link to both of these watches in the video description, by the way. For the brown one, we've got a width of around 40.8 millimeters. And it looks like there is overhang with the bezel there. That's like a bezel width, really. Without it, you're talking 40 mil on the nose. Lug to lug, 48.6, and it is relatively thin. So even with a slightly raised crystal, 13.5, that's pretty thin really for a GMT with a bezel as well. Discounting that crystal immediately goes down to about 11.5. I've got that as 39 exactly widthways. And let's see if their lug to lug measurement was accurate. I've actually got it slightly smaller there, 46.2. And thickness, even with that really domed crystal, only 12.5, which is quite skinny. If you chopped that off, the watch would actually be about 10 millimeters, which again is very thin for a GMT. And I'll quickly just test the lume and the crystals, make sure they're telling the truth, which I think they probably are at this point. So we've got a Vaer Korean field watch here, which I already know is sapphire crystal, thanks to that nice strong reading. The brown watch, yes, we got a strong reading, so that is sapphire. And then the punchy purple one, again, yep, strong enough. That is definitely sapphire crystal. Here's a closer look at the first one. And they've gone with an inked logo on this one too, I'm guessing to try and fit the theme, because they normally go with an applied logo, San Martin. Yeah, it's not a bad watch, but definitely my lesser preferred of the two. It's hard to fully appreciate the dial texture here with this one, but really has like a richness to it, almost like veins out of a rock. Almost like a mineral look with this one. Yeah, it's even got a colour matched date wheel too there at 6 o'clock, so that's a nice little touch. As for low light performance, let's see what these have got to offer. Oh, and I'm glad I checked, because it looks like we've got a fully loomed bezel there on the left. San Martin's loom has always been pretty good, not absolutely industry leading, but certainly well above average. And there we go. So 2 different loom compounds from the looks of it. And there it is after about 30-ish seconds or so. I've just cut it. Both holding up really well. And I would expect them to really last a pretty long time. Normally at this stage, most poorly loomed watches have already faded completely. I've been looking at a lot of Timex watches recently, and that's always been one of their Achilles heels. So there we go, 2 new watches from San Martin. They're both linked in the video description if you do want to check any of them out. Which of these do you think's better? I mean, it's a no-brainer for me, I've got to say.